Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Armchair GMs. I'm your host, Tommy Telleriano. Alongside me today is the one and only, the number one Yankees fan, Niners fan, Chicago Bulls fan, Luka Doncic fan, Call of Duty fan, Jordan Navarro. Jordan, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. It really makes me sound like a bandwagon when you really put it all
No.
together like that. I promise everybody I'm not though. I've supported those teams, through thick and thin, and it's a lot of thin. Not it's not been very promising for any of those teams in the playoffs or rebuilding or anything. I'm a Luca fan. He misses the playoffs. It is what it is. But I'm doing
Sounds
good
like you're
today,
cursed.
Tommy. Yes, I am cursed. I'm cursed.
It's okay.
But
You're doing good?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good today. In 7 days, the draft is starting. On day one,
Right.
Roger Goodell will be booed. Bryce Young looking like he's going to go 101. The odds just changed. He's canceled all of his other visits. Looks like he's the overwhelming favorite, but it could just be smokescreen. It is smokescreen season. Teams are trying to manipulate the board of the leaks and media manipulation. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, only time could tell if he is one. There goes my mock draft already out the door. It is what it is. But we left off at 17, I believe. 1 through 16 was electric. We had some studs through the first half of the draft, I will say. But today, we got 17 through 31, like we mentioned last episode. There is no 32nd pick because the Miami Dolphins are scummy. They lost their first round pick for, was it tanking? Was the reason, or tampering?
I think it was tampering with either Sean Payton or Tom Brady.
Yeah.
It could have also been the tanking thing. It was a combination of all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have a first round pick, so only 31 picks in the first round. And if we want to have a 32nd pick, it's Chase Claypool because that's what he got traded for.
That's right.
So
I mean that's higher than what he went in the draft. But we'll start out with the team that did trade him. Pittsburgh Steelers, number 17. Who you got going there?
You had this guy going in the first mock draft. I have him going here. Broderick Jones, the tackle out of Georgia. He started 15 games for Georgia, did well, but he is a little inexperienced. My comp for him, Tommy, legendary. This guy is my first team all names team. He will always have a spot. D'Brickashaw Ferguson, great tackle for the Jets. He has good size, athleticism for a tackle, good awareness, keeps his feet moving. He's a great athlete. And that's a theme in this draft. We have great athletes. Size is kind of a concern for most of them, but he has the whole package. He just lacks starting experiences. He's a little raw, but the Steelers, they need an impact tackle. They need someone who can be an anchor for them. And I think, give this guy a year of experience and he can be that. So I really like this pick for the Steelers here. It's a great way to start their draft off.
Yeah, I mean, I have him going to Green Bay because I think they're going to get rid of Bakatari and they might lose their other tackle. But like you said, this man could be a stud. I went on the defensive side of the ball. They had really two concerns going in the draft, the Steelers. Offensive line, which has kind of been a little bit of the problem the past couple of years. It got a little bit better last year. And then the defensive side, their secondary corner specifically, it's not the best. It hasn't been that great compared to Steelers standards. So at 17, I haven't taken Deontay Banks, corner from Maryland. I think, Steelers, they lose out on some of the bigger offensive tackles in the draft already off the board. They are also losing on some of the top corners, but I think they grabbed Banks. They met with him early on through pre-draft interviews. Mike Tomlin seems to like him. Plus, they also bring in Patrick Peterson. He can mentor the rookie, and I think he can grow as that star corner for the Steelers.
Yeah, Deontay Banks, I like that pick a lot. It was between him and Jones for me. Great speed, great athlete out of Maryland. Yeah, I really like that pick.
And then we'll go next, number 18, Detroit. They had the 6th pick earlier in the draft. So, and that was with the Rams trade. This is their original, 6th pick. Who you got them taken with the 18th pick?
This is my personal favorite pick. This is a Dan Campbell certified hood banger. Calijay Cansey, the D lineman out of Pitt. I'm going to go ahead, Tommy. I can't give you a player comp, okay? I
Okay.
can't say the name, but you see it in our document.
I see it. I see it.
Listen, he plays the same position. They're undersized. They went to the same university. Listen, man, I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald. I'm not. I'm not. Okay, I'm not. I'm
They
just
play
saying
the same position, though.
Same position, same college.
Never been in the same room, probably.
Undersized. Exact. You see what I'm saying? Like, not
I
saying
got
it.
you.
I'm
Yeah.
just thinking it. But this kid right here, he's one of my draft crushes. I must say, he has a great story, and the way he plays is phenomenal. Extremely high motor. He doesn't take plays off. He is relentless in the pass rush. Has versatility to line up across the defensive line. Has been productive. Great short area quickness. Tested also very similarly to the player that I'm not saying is his player comp. I'm just saying there's some
You're just
similarities.
stating. Yeah.
Just stating.
Yeah.
Great short area quickness like that person, and a good set of pass rush moves right now out of the box. No batteries needed. This kid, he's got all the juice when he comes out of the box.
Batteries come with the box, yeah.
Exactly. Tweener size concerns, obviously, again, common theme. Struggles against bigger competition and may ultimately be a Solomon Thomas type. He may be a rotational type player, not true edge. Also, maybe he's not Aaron Donald and he's just a little too small to play in the interior and be productive. But the kid had 30 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 7 sacks. I'm willing to bet that he is productive in the NFL. Calijay Cansey, love that kid.
I mean, you stole the show right there with that pick. The description, the comp, everything, the stats, the traits, the weaknesses. Oh my god, that was a great one. That was your best one, I think. But
Thank you.
I think he'd fit in great with Detroit. I think it's a great pick. But there's a guy on here who I think is going to break some kneecaps for Dan Campbell. Played the same position as Dan Campbell, and Dan Campbell probably sees a little bit of himself in him. And that's the Notre Dame guy, Michael Mayer. I know you're a big fan of Michael Mayer. We've talked about him a lot, how there's a lot of potential there for him to be, I don't want to say one of the best tight ends ever, but maybe like a baby Gronk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So,
Listen, we've been calling him that since his freshman year, man.
yeah, I mean, go watch the tape. You can talk about him a little bit more, but I think adding him, the Lions boost their offense. They grab a versatile Mayer. They kind of had Hawkinson, but they got some capital for him, and they kind of can replace him with someone who has probably the same ceiling as Hawkinson. I think he can run up the field. He can open up lanes in the run game. He's a red zone receiver, and I think, like I said, he's got that kneecap biting mentality in him. He's got that dog in him.
He does have that dog in him. He's used to being one of the only threats on a Notre Dame offense. He'd be the 2 or 3, maybe even 4th option in Detroit. Built like a tank, obviously. I mean, I've discussed it. Yeah, he would fit in with Detroit. Also, Brock Wright, another Notre Dame guy, on the roster already. So that tight end room would be elite, obviously.
Electric. Bunch of 4-star recruits there in Detroit.
Absolutely. Bunch of Notre Dame men. Business acumen is amazing. They can
bring
sell
in
you a
Ian
house.
Book. Just combine them all. Get Claypool, trade for him. And you lost, what's his name? Not Zay Jones, DJ Chark. I mean, come on. Bring the Notre Dame guys home. But we'll move on to number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll have you start because we have different players for this one. Who you got there?
Had this guy going in the first mock draft in the top 16. I moved some picks around, but I think I
Oh,
found him an
oh,
even better home. That's why I didn't
okay.
have him in the top 16. Even better. Tampa Bay needs help on the edge. They need help at quarterback. They're not going to be able to get one. So your best bet is to get an edge rusher with some potential, with some speed that can bring that defense back to life a little bit. And Todd Bowles can maybe keep this team afloat in what is an atrocious division in the NFC South. Nolan Smith, guy out of Georgia, he's used to the hot weather. That
That's
fits.
right.
Um, Nolan Smith, I have him as a great value Hassan Reddick. Listen, flashes on film. He's agile. He's really athletic off the edge. Great athleticism is always around the ball. Not too many concerns, to be honest. He is kind of maybe a little bit of a developmental player. Coming off a season-ending pec, so that pec injuries are tough, especially for edge rushers. And a little undersized. Again, a theme. A lot of these guys are undersized, but 18 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. That was only in 8 games. I think he could potentially be the Shaq Barrett replacement. Shaq Barrett's still there. He could, flourish beside him if Shaq Barrett gets all the way back from his injury. Really love that pick. And I think he is the perfect fit in Tampa Bay. That is my dream fit for him.
You know what? I also thought Nolan Smith would be good there, but I kind of forgot I had him in the top 16 already. So I'm right there with you. You nailed everything right there. I completely agree with you, but I have to change it up a little bit. So I'm doing something on the fly. I'm changing up my own mock on the fly right now. For Tampa, I'm going. We talked about him last episode. I'm going Lucas Van Ness. I think. I think he had him going to Philly.
Yeah.
I think he'll fit in really well on this Tampa Bay defensive side. I believe it was Devin White. He asked for a trade. I think he can kind of be a replacement a little bit with that. I think he'd fit right in. He can grow a little bit in this Tampa defense. They can still compete, but I don't think the expectations are too high to where there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. You can grow, be a leader, and kind of fit out of that rotational player mold coming out of Iowa.
Yeah, I completely agree. He could definitely learn behind those vets that they got. And like we said, he was a rotational player and he does need a little bit of experience, but that's a really good fit in Tampa for him as well.
And we'll go on to 20 now. 20, the Seattle Seahawks, which they have a top pick already. So this is their second pick in the first round. Jordan, who you got going to Seattle?
This was a tough one. Listen, I had Hendon Hooker here. I won't lie. I thought this would be a
Makes
decent spot if
sense.
they don't
Yeah.
they don't take Anthony Richardson and Will Levis up top, which I had all four of the quarterbacks going off the board for first, so they didn't have an opportunity. Um, Thought he can learn behind Geno, but I have age concerns with Hendon Hooker. He's already 25. Um, Obviously, system, he's coming from not really a pro style system. So I had some concerns. I just left him off the board. But instead, Seattle gets a mauler, Osiris Torrance out of Florida. First team All American, started 11 games. Reminds me so much of Roger Saffold. Big, physical, will be productive day one. This kid is NFL ready when it comes to the run game. He is dominant. Gets to the second level. If you're a corner or safety, you don't want to see this human being coming at you. You're not getting by him. You will be pancaked. It's just as simple as that. Pancake warning. This kid needs to be sponsored by IHOP. Okay, that's that's the level I'm talking about. Uh, Listen, the only concerns, he's an interior guy. They don't get drafted high unless they're Quentin Nelson. Sorry, and he probably needs to be in a power gap scheme. He's not very quick. He's not going to be a Kyle Shanahan type interior guy that's going to get out on the edge, and he's not like that. But Seattle has Kenneth Walker, and he wants to run through your face. So that I think that's a perfect fit.
Yeah, and you know what? It adds to that young Seattle offensive line. They took 2 tackles, I believe, last year, or
And
at
they
least
yes, and they're
one.
both productive. Both productive.
Yeah, and they really stood out unless they were facing the 49ers. But Osiris, he's serving up flapjacks all day long. Put him at Waffle House, put him at IHOP, give him that sponsorship right now because that's all he knows is pancakes, baby. Seattle, I had him taking defense early with Jalen Carter at D tackle. I think there's character issues there still, but I believe his interviews are going well. So I don't think he's going to fall that much. But I think what Seattle's going to do, they really need some defensive help. So I think they're going to go out, also draft another defensive pick in with the 20th pick. I'm going Miles Murphy, D end out of Clemson. Seattle probably could take him at number 5. He's that talented. But I think with Jalen Carter on the board, they'll fall to him. And I think Murphy, if he's there at 20, Seattle could walk away with winners of the draft with 2 defensive threats.
Yeah, getting edge rushers never a bad idea if you're if you're in the NFL, especially guys that have the pedigree and the upside of a Miles Murphy and a Jalen Carter, like you said. I had him taking Will Anderson. I just like how the board played out. I liked how Osiris was sitting there. I think they could use the interior help. But I, if they take Miles Murphy at 20, I don't think anyone's going to bat an eye at why they did it. He's, has great upside off the edge.
It wouldn't be exactly the Legion of Boom, but it's got a little bit of potential. Bobby Wagner probably will be in the retirement home by the time they elevate that, I will say. And Blitz Boy Jamal Adams will be back on the field. Let's see if he will be as productive. But we'll go to pick number 21 now, the Los Angeles Chargers, which I think could go a lot of ways, but I believe me and you have the same exact pick. Let me look real quick. Yeah, we do. It makes the most sense.
We like Justin Herbert, and as fantasy football managers,
we want it. Yeah,
we want this. Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC. Keep him on the West Coast. Listen, Tommy, I'm going to set the scene for you. Justin Herbert, elite young quarterback. Austin Eckler, aging running back. 27, 28. They're looking to kind of either give him an extension or replace him something. Wide receivers. Mike Williams. He walks down the stairs and gets injured. Keenan Allen. He's got one. He
has a pulled hamstring every season now.
1 foot out the door of the NFL. I think he's going to be productive in, later into his career. But listen, not the same guy anymore. He has injuries. Both of those guys are never on the field. Get Justin Herbert a weapon, a guy that can go deep, a guy that can sit behind these two, learn from them, be the next amazing wide receiver for the Chargers. Jordan Addison is that smooth route runner, good short area burst. People will see him as a slot because of his size, but he can beat you deep. I've seen it on tape. He makes corners look silly when he's going deep. It always makes the first guy miss after the catch. It's kind of shocking that he won't be in the conversation to go 12, where I had JSN going, but he just hasn't tested that great in the offseason, or tested poorer than expected. But last year, 59 catches, 875 yards, 8 touchdowns, 14.8 yards per reception. I have him as like a great value Devontae Smith, and I guess that comp from me comes from his frame. He's very small, slim, kind of the same type, or like a Darnell Mooney type. I think he'd fit perfectly. Any receiver, honestly, would fit next to Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, but Jordan Addison brings what they're missing.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was going over this pick, I was like, man, maybe Bijan does fall to LA, and with Eckler wanting out, they just say, here you go, Robinson, take over for us. And I was like, maybe they do need offensive linemen. The offensive line was a little shaky, but they were banged up. They could have gone D tackle, with Kansas City. They need to apply a little bit more pressure on Mahomes. They haven't done a pretty good job with that. But I'm with you. I think, you got to add Addison, because Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, they're going to combine for 5 games probably next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's always injured.
It's terrible. Yeah. I mean, between Mike Williams being the guy from SpongeBob who's, I walked and broke my leg. I fell down the stairs and broke my arm. And it's just Keenan Allen, great receiver for many years, but he's on, like you said, he's on the back half of his career. Addison, excellent separator, big play threat. He could step into the receiver role at 3 for this year probably. And honestly, if he steps up, I can see Keenan Allen next year being cut and he takes over as wide receiver 1 because Mike Williams will be hurt as usual. But I also saw, Zay Flowers is mocked here as well. But I think Zay Flowers is going to be off the board by then. But Jordan Addison, I think that'd be a great pick.
Absolutely.
And we'll go with Baltimore with a 22nd pick. The Baltimore Lamar Jacksons, who do they select?
I've got them keeping the Maryland kid, someone you just talked about. Keep him in state. Keep him in Maryland in the DMV. Deontay Banks, corner. 38 tackles, an interception, 8 pass breakups. Like I said, elite athlete, legit 4.3 speed, good instincts, good anticipation, all the things you want to see from a really good corner. Only thing is, and I don't know why he does this, he gives up too much cushion on in-breaking routes, and he can get beat and let the receiver get across his face, and you don't really want that. He gets grabby when that happens, when he gets beat. I don't think he realizes that he runs as fast as he does. Press them, please. He can keep up with any receiver in the NFL. He won't have a trouble keeping up with as long as he gets his hands on him at the line. Kind of reminds me of Marshawn Lattimore. That's my player comp for him. But like this kid a lot. I think he could help Baltimore. Marcus Peters, being a free agent, they need to reload that cornerback room a little bit. Like this pick.
Yeah, and helps out with that Baltimore defense, which I always feel like Baltimore, it's their bread and butters on the defensive side. They've always had strong defense. Past couple years, it's kind of fell off a little bit. There's been trouble in the secondary with injuries. It feels like every year. The interior line and the defensive line and the edge rushers, they're older now. And, we saw that with Calais Campbell. He got released. So I'm going with your guy who could be Aaron Donald, could not be Aaron Donald. I'm going Kancey here. I think he's basically a fill-in for Calais Campbell. Much younger, ceiling is very high, and they can be those Baltimore bullies again.
Hey, Kancey, yeah, I can't see a world where it's a bad pick, okay? I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. He's
like
that good.
Yeah, I just love that kid. He plays with so much energy. Like I said, he may or may not be Aaron Donald. Who knows? Not saying that.
I don't know.
But yeah, if he goes to Baltimore, you go to San Francisco. If we trade into the first round, love that. Who knows?
Never know. Could happen. We'll go pick 23 here. The Minnesota Vikings.
I want you to start this one off because I saw your write-up for it.
Okay.
And it was excellent.
Yeah. So I saw your pick. That makes sense now. I made this before the reports came out that Dalvin Cook could be cut. So I'm going to put that out there. For me, after watching Minnesota last year, and I think every NFL fan knows this, it's traffic cones for defense. Nothing else. It's all cones. It's pad work and cones. I mean, it's crazy. So I have him taken Keely Ringo, D-back, Georgia. They lost Patrick Peterson, who was probably their best defender, even though he was like 34 years old. So I had him taking Ringo just because they don't have a defense. That's enough that should be said. The Vikings defense is so bad that I honestly think, yes, Adam Thielen's gone. They don't really have a good wide receiver room as much. Dalvin Cook, there's problems. But the whole draft should be defense. That's how bad this was. I mean, it was terrible.
Yes, I agree with everything you just said. Everything. I don't really love the Kelly Ringo pick there. I will be honest. But any defender, literally anybody would help that team. And listen, I'll be honest, this is a homer pick for me because listen, I said this, I think, in the last episode. At 8, I think if Jalen Carter doesn't slide or if there's not a quarterback there, I think Atlanta probably takes Bijan. Okay? I think they want to establish the run. They want to bring NFL back 75 years and only do 3 passes a game. And I love, you know what? If you're going to do that, you might as well get the best running back available. But I have Bijan going to Minnesota because I think Dalvin Cook has lost a step. I don't think they want to pay him. I think if they cut him, you might as well, at this point, you're not going to be able to take enough picks in this draft to fix the defense. That's going to have to. It's a culture change, coaching change. You're going to have to hope some guys just overplay and outplay their potential. That's what we're betting on. That's like a 2-year job over there. So you might as well go all in on the offense. So if you can't get Dalvin Cook, and I know they just paid Alexander Mattison $3.5 million, I don't care. I don't think he's that great. You know who I think is great? Bijan Robinson. And Tommy, let me tell you, I don't have to sell you. You've seen the tape. You know he's amazing. But to the people that may have been living under a rock, let me tell you all the positives I have for him. Game breaker. Okay, he's the best player in the draft. If he played wide receiver, he might go 101. He's that damn good. Ridiculous balance. He forces a missed tackle on every single play. I watch this kid every week. Every single play, there's a missed tackle that he touches the ball. He had like 104. It's something crazy. It's ridiculous. You want to hear the stats? I'll give you the stats. 1,580 yards, 6.1 yards per carry. 6.1 yards per carry. 18 touchdowns. 19 catches. You know what's crazy? He only had 19 catches, and every analyst, every expert says he's probably the best receiving back in the class or the second best, depending on how you feel about Jahmyr Gibbs. And he only had 19 catches. So Texas wasn't even using him to the full potential. Okay? You want to hear the negatives? There's none. He plays running back. That's it. That's the only negative.
That's it.
He could be the best player in the draft. I guess if I had to give you a negative, he didn't test as well as people expected. He didn't have 4.4 speed. He had, I don't know, 4.5. Yeah. My player comp for him is Edgerrin James.
I mean, it's crazy.
It's that simple. Now, I will admit, Trent Richardson had this similar hype and, flamed out. But Trent Richardson was like a blind locksmith. He was a blind locksmith. He couldn't find the hole. He had no vision. So, I got faith in Bijan.
Honestly, it's a great pick. I love it. I saw this yesterday. I want your reaction to this. Did you see Maurice Jones-Drew, his top 5 running backs in the draft? Did you see that list?
I did not.
Guess where he has Robinson?
5.
2.
No,
he's got Gibbs 1.
Hey, I respect it. Jahmyr Gibbs is a game breaker, great receiving back. The only thing is he's undersized. 5'9", 199 pounds. Very DeAndre Swift-like, and we've seen what's happened with him. He's been put into a change of pace back. But I understand it. That he's explosive. He's not Bijan, but he's explosive.
That was Minnesota can't go wrong with this pick. Anything's going to be an upgrade, really. They can upgrade
defense, fine. I'm just saying you should just understand you're going to give up 30 points a game and just try to outscore everybody.
And Bijan, you know what? He could score like 5 touchdowns a game if he really wanted to.
And really think about it. Primetime Kirk Cousins. We don't have prime Dalvin Cook. What if you had prime Dalvin Cook last year? You might win a couple primetime games because you can just hand the ball off to him.
You might be in the NFC Championship game.
Exactly. This is like getting that. When Kirk Cousins can't pass the ball and we can't get Justin Jefferson the ball, we hand it off. He can complete handoffs.
He could do checkdowns too.
That's what I'm saying.
It makes sense. Makes sense to me. We'll go next pick, number 24, Jacksonville. I believe we both have the same one for this one as well, right?
We do.
Yep.
Do the honors, Tommy. Who is
it? We went Darnell Wright, offensive lineman, Tennessee. It makes sense. They lost Juwan Taylor in free agency. I know they got a couple swing tackles, but I think at this pick, he's too good to pass up. I think he can start day one. The swing tackles, I believe, are both coming off season-ending injuries, so that's, I don't think, playing well in Jacksonville's favor. It adds Trevor Lawrence protection. I think they might be able to get it. This could be a top tackle in the draft. He's young. Trevor Lawrence is young. Keep that connection for a while. Ronnie Bass, he's going to air that thing out. Dougie P, he's going to protect him while airing that thing out. Simple.
Yes, that is how you win if you're Jacksonville. I think if Deontay Banks would have made it here for me, I would have maybe taken him because the Shaq Griffin contract just didn't work out. They do need a corner. My player comp for Darnell Wright, Morgan Moses light. It's not a sexy name to hear. You know, you want to hear Trent Williams, but it's just not. But he's a
Not
very
everyone's
solid
Trent
player.
Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, very solid. He probably is strictly a right tackle, but I know someone on Twitter actually said that he was only a right tackle, and then he went off on him and told him that they have no right to tell him what he is. And you know what? I
He's
don't.
right.
I know nothing about football.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what other people are saying, just relaying the information. They're saying he might just be a right tackle, but if he plays left tackle excellently, you know, then great. But he doesn't have great quickness, but he's a physical bruiser at right tackle, can overwhelm people with just his brute strength. Did not surrender a sack last year and was first team All SEC. And the SEC conference, Tommy, as you know, it just means more.
It's a dogfight. I mean, it's probably, would you say, the best division in college football?
Easily.
I don't want to say easily. Okay.
No, easily.
You did go there. I wasn't just trying to disrespect the other. But I'm glad he brought up how he went off on the guy on Twitter, because it is right. You know, he could be a guard too for Jacksonville, which that's going to help Travis Etienne as well. And that just pancakes all around. But we'll go. We also had the same pick for the New York Giants, which this for me is like the Minnesota pick. You kind of can't go wrong, and you know what you need to do. Do you want to take this one away, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You know, listen, this receiver class up and down between everybody. Some people only have JSN being the round 1 guy, and everyone else is a round 2, 3 grade. Some other people have 6 guys going in the first round, kind of like the tight ends. You got 14 of them going in the first round somehow. That's not going to happen. There will be 1 or 2 tight ends, but I digress. I think teams are going to reach for weapons, especially the Giants. They need them. Listen, they signed about 11 wide receivers this offseason. They are all between the height of 5'8" and 6 foot. They're all slot guys. They didn't sign a single outside wide receiver, and Isaiah Hodgins is probably the best returning receiver on the team.
Oof.
With Wan'Dale Robinson being out with injury with his ACL. Hopefully he comes back soon. So you need a big body, prototypical X. Let me tell you, Tommy, I know you love this player comp. I know you do. It's fine. I know. I do this. Okay, this is what I do. But
He is
Quentin
him.
Johnston out of TCU, highlight machine. He can go get it. 1,069 yards, 6 touchdowns, 60 catches. My player comp for him is Martavius Bryant, who people, hey, stop right now. I know people are rolling their eyes. Listen, he was productive when he was on the field, but with just a little bit of Debo sprinkled in, and I'll tell you why. He has a rare combination of quickness and size, routinely makes people miss after the catch, which he played in the Big 12. So really, what is that worth? Because no one can tackle in the Big 12 or play defense. But he averaged 8.9 yards after the catch.
That's huge.
8.9 yards after the catch. He was getting almost a first down after the catch. He has a massive catch radius because he's, 6'2", great arm length, and he's a big play waiting to happen. He can take anything to the house. But with that being said, a concern is he doesn't use that catch radius very often. He catches bodies in his frame, a body catcher. That's kind of my concern. He's not very competitive at the catch point for his size. Not very good at running routes yet. He is kind of efficient on some of them, but he needs to that's more of like a polish thing. I'm not saying he's a weak route runner, just a polish. And he did test poorer than expected. Some people were expecting him to come in at 4.4, maybe high-end 4.3 speed. He tested at like 4.5. He was a little bit shorter than advertised. People had him listed at like 6'4", 6'3", ended up at 6'2", I think, and a little bit lighter than expected. So he hasn't had a great offseason, but I think he can be a great X, and they have nobody else on that roster that can be a good outside wide receiver.
Yeah, and, he has been hyped up in this draft class a lot. I know. For a while, I had the number 2 pick in our Dynasty League, and you were saying this guy's legit. He probably could be better than JSN. But like you said, he didn't really look well at the combine as advertised. He still looked good, I thought. Just not as good as people thought.
And I think I'm glad you said that. It wasn't as advertised. It's not saying that he did bad. 4.5 speed's not bad. I think people everyone thinks 4.5 is slow. 4.5 is extremely fast. It's just not 4.3, not 4.4. Yeah.
which that I don't want to say it's a game changer in today's league, but it's when they do the draft combine, everyone loves the 4.3 speed. It it
Yes.
it, it tickles them in the right way. Um, I think this pick makes sense because I feel like they were in on the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstake. They felt like, that's probably too much for him. They got Darren Waller, who's probably their best target right now on the team. It adds the X receiver just because the other best receiver that they signed is Paris Campbell. And it's like, we know what he can do. It's not much. So it makes sense. He can grow in the offense. He can grow with Daniel Jones. It's a target that there's a lot of security blanket targets on this team, I feel like. And when you have someone who can go and get that ball, I think it's going to add to the offense. And that's going to help Daniel Jones a little bit when he decides he wants to throw the, or when Dabble decides he wants to throw the ball.
I saw where you're going with that. I'm glad you brought that up. They are going to have to open up this playbook at some point. They can't just keep doing Wildcat with Daniel Jones. That's pretty much what they're doing now. Eventually, they're going to have to open it up, take some shot plays, be a little bit more explosive, and Quentin Johnston can absolutely help them with that.
We'll go on to their division rivals with the next pick, 26. I'll have you start so I can practice a little bit saying my pick.
All right. I have maybe, this is kind of a hot take, but maybe one of the best. I'm going to put him as a top 3 defensive player in this draft. Okay, just overall. Brian Branch, DB out of Alabama, 90 tackles, 2 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, 3 sacks, 14 tackles for loss out of the safety position. I think he's the most versatile guy in this draft. Always around the ball. He had the lowest missed tackle rate in the country at 3.2%. Only thing is, again, smallish frame, maybe viewed kind of like a tweener, but I'll be honest, and I told you this when you had him picked 10 to Philly. I think he can play a great slot corner immediately. I think he could be one of the best slot corners in the NFL off rip, and I think he can get there at safety too and be good. Dallas got some expiring contracts at DB, so they need to shore up that position. And I have him player comp to kind of like Jalen Petrie. I think they're very similar, and Jalen Petrie's doing great in Houston, and Dallas gets their own version.
Yeah. And I think safety is a need for him too. I think this pick could go a lot of ways for Dallas. I could see him taken if Bijan's on the board. Maybe they do take him. They love running backs. They have a rich running back history there.
That's a Jerry Jones pick and a half.
Yeah,
I've talked about that with you off camera. Absolutely, yeah. Bijan's there. I find it hard to believe they'd pass him up just because of jersey sales and marketing.
Yeah, and I mean, they're one of the most marketable team. They are the most marketable team in the NFL, so that just makes sense. I could see them taking an offensive lineman as well, just because, the offensive line isn't what it used to be. It's getting older now. Zach Martin, he's probably on the backside of his career. They lost Frederick at center. They haven't really been able to replace him, I feel like. They could go tight end. They lost Schultz, add another weapon for Dak. But I think with this one, Dan Quinn's done a phenomenal job with this defense. He came in and they were one of the worst in the league. And I think they go Adetomiwa Adebare. I think I got that right.
You did. Good job.
Okay. Probably you haven't heard from him. He's a DN from Northwestern. Dan Quinn loves versatile athletes up front. He ran a 4.49 40-yard, 282 pounds. He checks all the boxes. And he adds another body who can get to the quarterback on this defensive line. He's an ascending player in the draft right now. And I think what's most important with this pick, I could definitely see him replacing DeMarcus Lawrence. I think if DeMarcus Lawrence, I felt like the last couple of seasons, he hasn't lived up to that contract. So I could see him getting cut and then Adetomiwa taking over.
Yeah, and Dallas loves their defensive line rotations. They like using a lot of bodies and keeping guys fresh. So it makes sense to get another athletic freak in there, and that's Dan Quinn's type, like you said.
And we'll go 27 now. Buffalo Bills. You want me to go, or who you want going first? We got different ones.
You can go first.
So we talked about him earlier. I was going to go receiver for this pick because it does make sense, but I still think they're trying to get DeAndre Hopkins. So I think if they can't get DeAndre Hopkins, they'll probably go receiver. But if they do, I think that need is finished. I haven't taken Osiris Torrance. We talked about him earlier. I think it just makes sense. You know, the offensive line wasn't the best last year. They did pick up some players this year, but their interior offensive lineman Ryan Bates, he's a free agent at the end of the year. I think he's put in Osiris. He adds a younger component to the offensive line. He can serve up some pancakes, which is definitely needed, and it's a kind of a necessity for Buffalo at this point.
And we talked about this in their preview. The interior of that line has to improve. They have to be able to protect Josh Allen, and they run kind of that vertical power gap scheme, so that he fits there. I like him as a player. I don't think they can go wrong with that. And I agree, if they can't get D-Hop, I think they go receiver. That's why I have them taking Josh Downs, wide receiver out of UNC, another guy that I really like, another one of my guys. Great film to watch. Had 1,030 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 94 catches, 10.9 yards per catch. Player comped him to Elijah Moore. I think they play very similarly, but he has a little Kadarius Toney in his game. And I'm not saying a whole lot, but he has a little wiggle, a little electricity when he gets the ball in his hands. Natural playmaker. He plays bigger than his frame suggests. He's only 5'9", but he had like a 72% contested catch rate, which I think was the best in the country, or at least up there, which is kind of insane for a guy that's 5'9". He's a great contested catch receiver, quick and sudden route runner. He shows good feel for getting open against zone, and that's a huge thing in the NFL. You're going to face a lot of zone coverage. I talked about it with JSN. He will sit down in those openings, and he will be able to give his quarterback a spot to throw the ball. Only thing is he's, short frame, small frame. He was a low A dot average depth of target receiver in college, so he didn't really show the big playability. But it's there. You can see it. It does flash on film. It just didn't show up consistently because he just had a low A dot and how they used him at UNC. But why I like this pick for Buffalo specifically is I think he can grow into be a very good playmaker, especially learning from a guy like Stephon Diggs. And also, they don't necessarily need him to be a big play guy down the field. They still have Gabe Davis, who they said was playing through a high ankle last year, so maybe he comes in a little bit healthier and shows more than what he did last year. He had a decent season, but it wasn't anything crazy as a wide receiver too for Josh Allen. So just keep surrounding Josh Allen with weapons. If they get D-Hop, then they probably don't take this pick. But you can't assume they're getting D-Hop.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We don't know if if D-Hop will get traded, but I think it's a great pick. It makes sense. It's a need. They released Isaiah McKenzie. I can see him filling in that role immediately. It adds to the threats. He might be able to take over Gabe Davis's job if he could run better than a straight line. So I think there's a lot of potential there. We'll go 28 now. I'll have you start because I really love this player comp that you wrote up for him. Take it away for Cincinnati.
I wish I could say this was my own, but this is Danny Kelly from The Ringer. I was looking for a player comp for DeJuan Jones because, listen, Tommy, he's 6'8", like 380 pounds. Mountain.
Big man.
I actually, I had Mountain from Game of Thrones written for his player comp, which makes sense. But I saw this one and I laughed and I kept it. So mine was Mountain from Game of Thrones, but Danny Kelly had Groot. Makes sense. Ridiculously long arms, tall, massive human being. 0 sacks or QB hits given up at OSU this year. And like I said, massive. It's not pretty. I'll go ahead and let you know. You watch his tape, it's not pretty. He's not it's technically sound. They saw him when he's probably in 5th grade. He's probably like 6'1". He was stealing people's lunch money. And they're like, listen, you're going to play offensive tackle. And he just got away with being big his whole life, and it shows up on film. Overwhelming power. You're not going to push him off of his block. It's not going to happen. He's a brick house. Simply put, he blocks his ass off, okay? It's not pretty. It's not fundamental, but he gets it done, okay? He gets the job done. He's like Bob the Builder, and he will do it every time. slow-footed, won't fit every scheme, but I think you put the mountain over there on the right side of the offensive line. Joe Burrow doesn't have to worry about it. Even if he does get beat, that defensive lineman is going to be tired after having to move that massive human being off the block. So I think he's a relatively raw prospect, but I'll bet on anyone that's 6'8", 380 pounds.
I love that pick. I mean, you give Joe Burrow some protection. You already have Orlando Brown on the other side too. Oh my God, that's just a match made in heaven for Joe Burrow, I think. And then the interior offensive line could still use some work, but the offensive line problems probably would go away if you had both those two at tackle. For me, he's still on my board, and this is just it's kind of a dream pick for me. Um, I got Bijan Robinson going here. I want to see him as a Bengal. It's just I'd love it so much. Because then they're great in the offensive or in the passing game. But could you imagine if they brought in a running back like Bijan? Oh my God, the run game would be phenomenal. Joe Burrow could hit checkdowns. He'd probably have over 50 touchdowns every year. I just think it's a match made in heaven. They can cut that criminal Joe Mixon. He'll be out of there. I mean, it's great. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, it's a very similar pick to Minnesota, where they have a veteran running back who's kind of hasn't shown too much in the last year. Joe Mixon, a couple seasons ago, was really good. Last season was kind of F for him. He ended up splitting time with Samaje Perine, so that tells
Who's
you all you
gone
need to
now?
know there.
Yeah.
Yes. And he has the off the field issues going on right now. Apparently, they're going to ask him if he wants to take a pay cut. If he doesn't, they'll cut him. And listen, Minnesota, Cincinnati, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, those issues can be solved with one Bijan Robinson. I love that pick. It would be amazing for fantasy football. I like
Yeah.
fantasy football, so yeah, I'm sign me up for Bijan going to a good offense.
I mean, that's all I want. I just want Bijan and a good offense. I it's just imagine him in that Cincy offense. I feel like that'd be on par with the Chiefs offense. It's it's a dream for me. I'll stop talking about it though. We'll go to number 29, I think is next. New Orleans. I believe we have the same pick for this one. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, Brian Breesy out of Clemson. He has a teammate that's still on the board for me. So this is kind of a shocker, probably. 15 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Versatile, athletic, can play multiple fronts, multiple positions on the front. Disruptive length and strength to get to the quarterback. But we're getting to the point where a lot of these guys, I don't know if they're going to be everyday starters or every down starters. Probably a rotational guy. Often loses leverage and can be pushed around despite his size and strength. Have him comp to Grover Stewart, who, I mean, some people may know, some people may not. But Grover Stewart's a good defensive tackle. Um, yeah, I think he's just going to be a solid prospect. I don't. He definitely has upside with how athletic he is, how versatile, how disruptive he is with his length and his great use of his arm length. So he can definitely hit a higher ceiling. But I think his 50% outcome, Grover Stewart, very solid rotational guy, and he'll always give you quality snaps.
Yeah, and I love that comp right there. And I think this is a good fit pick for New Orleans. They lost three players on that defensive line in free agency. They can kind of restore it. Parisi, he's big, athletic, long. He's versatile to the line, and he can disrupt the pocket, which I think, the Saints always love that. They've always had that guy who goes in and disrupts the pocket. Cam Jordan's getting up there right now, so he could bring some versatility like that to the board. Um, we'll go number 30, Philadelphia Eagles. They had the 10th pick earlier. Who you got them taking right now?
I haven't taken Keely Ringo. I don't really like this pick. I'm gonna be honest. Probably my least favorite pick I've mocked, but I didn't really have one for them here. I didn't think they'd spend another pick on an edge rusher because I had them taking Lucas Van Ness at 10. So Keely Ringo, 34 tackles, 2 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, good ball skills, great upside. I mean, he has maybe the most upside at any corner, good patience and coverage, but honestly, he's kind of sloppy, gets very aggressive, can leave himself out of position, and his teammates, he can kind of leave them out to dry. Slow in transition. He has very stiff hips. So when he has to open up and chase a guy, he doesn't always get there and he doesn't always regain that step. But a great aggressive corner that has great upside and can be molded into something. And I think learning behind James Bradbury and Darius Slay is definitely a way to get to that upside. I haven't comped to JC Horn, but I don't even really like that comp, but it's just really the only one that came to mind.
Yeah, and it's kind of we kind of took different approaches for that 10th pick. You took a edge rusher, and I took a secondary. We kind of flipped here, so I have him taking the secondary first, and an edge rusher next. I will say we got some more breaking news for Philly. Just came out. Matt Patricia is joining the Eagles staff as a senior defensive assistant in Philly. So they're no longer a top 10 defense, is what I'm hearing.
What a shame.
So I'm sorry. Once Matt Patricia gets added to a coaching staff, it just happens. I don't know what to tell you. That's back-to-back episodes of breaking news. We're like Sham
You're on
out
fire.
here, Jordan. Yeah, I mean,
you're on fire.
I'm on the phones every night, every day, 24/7. I have him taken Felix and Duke Uzama, DN, Kansas State. Howie Roseman, he loves the pass rushers. He loves adding depth to that. They lost a couple in free agency. He's Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, second team All-American, and I think he can be impactful on an already pretty good defensive line.
Yeah, Uzama, good frame. He's not the greatest athlete. He's not going to really wow you athletically, but very strong, very productive. And I think that's the strongest case you got for him. Great productivity in all of his college career. And he is rising up a lot of draft boards. He's a name to keep the lookout for. If it's not day one, it'll be early in day two that he hears his name called.
And then this is the last one. That's pick number 31, Super Bowl champs, Kansas City. I'll have you start out. Who you got with the last pick in the first round?
Listen, he slipped my mind while I was doing this, but I've seen him move down boards because he's raw as a prospect. Myles Murphy out of Clemson, 40 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. Prototypical edge. He's got great size. He's got great athleticism. He can be a productive 3-down player right now, I think, as a rotational piece, coming in and out. Needs to expand his pass rush set. He does kind of get away with his athleticism, and he tries to use that all the time. Reminds me a lot of an early Montez Sweat. Yeah, Montez Sweat, very similar size. He was always trying to just blow by people, and it doesn't really work. He's refined his skills a little bit. I think Myles Murphy, that's kind of where you're looking for his career to go down that path. And he isn't always consistent with his motor. He does seem to take the plays off sometimes, but that was a concern with Kayvon Thibodeau last year, and we seen what happened. So it's not really. I had to put something down.
And I think that'd be a great pick for Kansas City because then they have a stud on the defensive side, added next to Chris Jones. It'd probably be the second best player next to Chris Jones after a full year of play in the NFL. I also have him taking an edge rusher. I just don't think Murphy's going to be on the board. So I went Keon White, edge rusher out of Georgia Tech. They signed some players at the position, but I think they can kind of double down here. They add a long, powerful rusher in White. He's a 3-down skill set. He can play across the line, and it gives the defense some options up front. They can be a little bit more versatile and can mix things up and send some different pressures on the defensive side of the ball.
See, we're same wavelength. We're geniuses. We think alike. Edge rusher. They got rid of Frank Clark. So it's a need for the Chiefs, and the cool pick here, I guess, is Jalen Hyatt. I'll go ahead and let you know that it was Jordan Davis last year for me. Okay, you remember? I thought he was a bum. He he wasn't a bum in the NFL. And I'll admit, I'm sorry, Jordan Davis. I didn't expect you to be as good as you were in the NFL, although you still you haven't beat the Jag allegations yet, but you're on a good start, and I'm willing to root for you. Jalen Hyatt, he's my new burn the pick. He runs nothing but a 9 route. He's very good at running a straight line. That's it. He's Gabe Davis. And why do you want it? That's the cool pick here for Kansas City because people want to have another Tyreek Hill. They don't need one. They just showed y'all they don't need one.
And they got Sky Moore and Justin Ross. I mean, come on. They got some young talent at wide receiver. The Hyatt pick, I thought he's getting mocked at Buffalo right now in some mock drafts. And I was
it's like Gabe Davis.
I was going to say, it's just two Gabe Davises. I mean, Gabe Davis, he's a solid receiver. We're getting a lot of hate. But honestly, I don't even think he's a top 35 wide receiver in the NFL. Maybe around top 50.
Listen, I saw I watched every second of the Alabama game.
Yeah.
I know what happened. Okay, I know it was a masterpiece. He was destroying them. Go look at the variety of routes. Go tell me what route. What routes did he win on other than 9 routes? If you can find some, you send them to me. I'll watch them, and I'll be proven wrong. But you can't. It's straight lines. Sometimes post. And if you go, shout out Matt Harmon, great analyst. Reception perception. The stats are there that tell you he can't win on many routes.
Listen, men lie, women lie, but the numbers don't lie.
The numbers do not lie.
They're always right. Any other players, because we're done with the first round, we're only doing the first round, but are there any other players that we missed in our mock drafts that we should look to see on night 1 of the NFL draft?
None that I can really think of off the top of my head, to be honest. I think we got most of everybody's top prospects. I think we did good to keep it in like the top 35, top 40 guys on most big boards. Maybe Anton Harrison. He's a tackle, great pass protector. I could definitely see him. But yeah, I think we did good. DJ Turner, Michigan guy. But I think it's going to be weird to see how this draft goes because there's so many varying opinions. Like if you go look at our draft, we don't have a linebacker going in the first round.
Not like a true linebacker, like a middle linebacker, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And, a guy like Drew Sanders couldn't make it into the first round because a team, that's just their need and they want that. But, just off of talent, maybe he's not a first-round guy. So we'll have to see. Again, there could be multiple tight ends taken. I think we both only have one currently, or maybe 2. But we could see a guy like Sam Laporta. We could see Dalton Kincaid. He's the sexy pick right now. He's the guy that's getting player comp to Travis Kelce. Yeah. So, there's going to be a lot of movement in the draft, obviously. And, we're not going to get this 100% right. Hell, if I get 6 or 7 of these picks correct, I'll be happy. But yeah, I think we kept it good on the big board. I think it's a lot of top 30, top 40 prospects on most analysts' list.
Yeah, and like you said, we're probably not. We'll get some picks right, but honestly, a lot of these teams, I don't know about you, but it felt like a lot of these teams had a lot more needs than other draft years, where it's like the picks can go so many different ways. Like Tennessee, that was my hardest one, I remember. Tennessee had so many holes, I felt like, where it's like, what's the biggest hole right now? And it's hard to figure that out. So I think teams like that, it's very hard to come up with who you think they're going to pick.
Exactly. And this draft, it's kind of a weak draft in terms of blue chippers, I guess, like those top elite prospects. There's not many of them. And when you really go into, you hear analysts talk about it, there's not a lot of first round grades. What's that really mean? It's, if there's 40 or 50 players with first round grades, well, there's not 40 or 50 picks in the first round. What really, I think they're misinterpreting that as there's not a lot of elite talent, right? And there's not in this draft. But this draft is really deep. I think it goes 2, 3, 4 rounds of productive players. But fans, you got to understand, if a guy that you draft in the second, third round is a good rotational piece, stays on the team for 4 or 5 years, gets you productive snaps, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a superstar with every pick. That's not how this works. Even a first-round guy, like I said with Brian Breesy, if he's a productive rotational piece, sure, maybe he doesn't hit his 99th percentile outcome of being this disruptive superstar at defensive tackle. 50% outcome where he's a good rotational piece, gives you solid snaps. That's a great pick at 29.
That's all you need. Yeah.
So I think this is the type of draft that this is. Great depth, good solid players, just not elite upside in a lot of them because they have, size concerns or athleticism concerns or whatever it is.
I think you nail everything on the head right there. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Well, we wanted to live stream the episode next week for the draft, do a live, talk about it while it's going on. That's not going to happen. I've looked into the DMCA laws for every streaming service available. They're not going to allow us to watch the NFL draft on stream, and I think it's just a little corny if we sit here and talk while the draft is going on and we're on our phones announcing picks. We're not Mel Kiper, Why would you watch me when you could watch Mel Kiper? So,
I was going to say, the only thing we could do is if we're both on here live on the YouTube channel, and then we just have it on our TVs in the background. But I just don't think the quality of that would be that great.
Yeah. So the day after, or a couple days after, whenever, because we got to get an episode out next week, we'll be talking about it. And it kind of lines up. We usually record on Thursday, Friday. The draft is on Thursday. We could do an episode Friday recapping the first round.
Yeah. Well, I think that'd be the best bet because I really don't want to get into reviewing those second and so rounds. So
standout picks, maybe.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. We digress. But unfortunately we can't do that just with certain laws in place. But that's all right. We'll like we said, we'll figure things out. We'll probably get another. It'll probably just be first round reaction video coming up next. But we hope you guys did enjoy the mock drafts. I enjoyed doing those 2 episodes a lot. I think last year we did one, but it kind of dragged on. I'm glad we split it up into 2 episodes, I will say. And I'm glad that I think last year we rotated. You were odds and I was even. Is that what we did?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm glad we each did 31 picks. I'm glad. I think it shows a little versatility between the drafts. So I think that came out really well. But I think that's going to do it for us today. Anything else?
You wanna put a bet on who gets more picks right?
Oh, we betting. You gambling, man?
Yeah. I mean, what do you want to?
I mean, financial freedom can be one bet away. I'll tell you that. So I'm down to do it.
Oh, wait, hey, you got too much dip on your chip now. I'm not talking. Hey, I was thinking, $2, $3, $4. Go get you a Wendy's 4 for 4, something like that.
Winner gets to pay the student loans of each.
No, about that.
No, not feeling it. Oh, we could.
A Wendy's 4 for 4. How about that?
I'd say we'll do a couple ones. So we'll do who had the most right picks. We'll also do over under how many I think we each get right. What do you think about that one?
I don't know about all that.
We'll set it at we'll set it 6.5. Over under 6.5 right picks.
Oh, I'm over on me.
You're going over?
I got confidence in myself.
We might change that line a little bit. Nights leading up to draft night. Yeah. I mean, it's draft season. It's that time of year. It's the best time of the year. But that's gonna do it for us today. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Armchair GMs. We hope you guys enjoy. We will see you next week after the first round of the NFL draft.
Peace.